All right, everyone. Welcome back. It's Super Happy Dragon Lucky episode 0x25, and we have a few things that we can quickly get to today. Shouldn't be a ton of info on any one of these things, but of course, first off, we're going to do our weekly coronavirus update, and basically, uh, if you can see, hair care and barbers are not essential in Washington State. So I'm looking like someone on a DC park bench. And that will probably continue for the foreseeable future. Everything else, we're all still at home, and the entire company, and it's all going well. We're getting a lot done. I actually tend to prefer it. And it's sometimes you have to be careful not to work too much into the late hours, but it is at least still really productive. We're not bored. It's interesting watching people complain about boredom online. But anyway, so we'll go and open up. Sorry, wrong tab there. The guys that are running the coronavirus layer are doing a good job keeping a lot of good info coming in. I try to post stuff occasionally from odd sources, but there's been some really interesting developments, and a lot of scary things going on, generally politically related, but hopefully everything will be all right. And either way, we're just hoping everyone gets back to work soon. We're actually working on a project with a team to hopefully do something related that would at least help in that process. Hope to give more info in the near term. I'm thinking that if we came out, and we might have an announcement next week. Kind of depends on the team and what's going on. So that's all good. Next up would be gosh, I have Den updates, but it's not. It's the Interchain blog, and basically we had, if you remember, an announcement that the patent was expanded, right? And shortly thereafter, there were articles about interop, in particular one that had some involvement with Deloitte, and there was an international study, but they were declaring that interop was nowhere near ready on blockchain. And we were like, well, what's up? So we decided to kind of delve into it a little further. And this article gives good information about the background, about the reasoning and the vision for interop that Dragonchain has and had built a long time ago. And in particular, a very interesting piece of it is that we actually pulled up the numbers for the number of interchain DragonNet transactions. And this includes all of the level 5 nodes hitting these other public chains that we have, almost 1,500 Bitcoin interchain transactions. We have 6,600 Ethereum, almost 10,000 Ethereum Classic transactions, and almost 5,000 Binance Chain. And you can see by the numbers that we gate them, we cadence them based upon the fees of each respective, and the cost, that all of the level 4 notary verifications get aggregated and then hashed onto one of these chains. And the one of the points, and we know this is very abstract, and we're trying to educate, I guess we're trying to get to the best explanation of how the tech works, but the fact that when your block, your business node, has transactions and they go into a block, that block gets verified up multiple levels from different security contexts until it hits a notary level. That notary then gets aggregated. All of these other nodes have their own blockchains also. So that notary node's block gets aggregated onto a level 5. And if it's Ethereum Classic, it goes out maybe every 15 minutes. I don't remember what our configurations are right now. Whereas Bitcoin goes out every, I think, 2 hours. And that one way or another, your next level 1 block tied to your last level 1 block goes to a different level 5. So over time, all of your business transactions end up provable to every one of our interchains, and that's where the real value is, because if any one of them has a problem, there's downtime or there's a 51% attack. Ethereum Classic had a 51% attack in 2019. I don't remember what month it was, but our system didn't see any ill effect of that, because all of our transactions were also going to Ethereum and Binance and most importantly, Bitcoin. So that's some of the interesting piece of it we're trying to explain in this article. So if you have questions, go in there, read that, figure out if we've missed anything that would help describe this. And by the way, these numbers don't include direct interchain transactions. That is, a business node can directly interact with any one of these chains on its own, and we're not getting metrics on that, or at least they are not in this set. The other important piece that we try to describe is, we could call it multi-context, we could call it multi-dimensional, but it is how is interop used, or how can it be used in the blockchain world. And the first, and what everyone knows about, is token transfer. Atomic swap, that is moving a scarce asset from one blockchain proof to another blockchain. And knowing how I know that, okay, this one is not real anymore, that one's real, and all of those things. And we've had this capability since sometime in 2018, early 2018, where if you've done any work with claiming an address in the console, or you have a console account, you've funded a node, or you have run a node and obtained fees and then withdrawn those fees, that you have used that system on the Dragonchain platform. And we don't think that it is the most important use case for blockchain interop. It is obviously a very interesting one, very, very applicable to fintech and asset work, but it is very focused on either the crypto world itself and cryptocurrency, or fintech itself. That is, the fact that the financial world is interested, obviously, in many aspects of this capability. The second capability is security and interop and interchain, specifically for the purposes of securing content or information. So if you what I just described above, if you have a business transaction, it's on your business node, it goes up through multiple levels, and there is interop even within Dragonnet, because those are all independently owned blockchains. They're not nodes on a single blockchain. They are their own blockchains. So if you're running a level 2 or a 3 or a 4 node, you have your own blockchain, and it is interchaining with business blockchains, which the level 1 business nodes. And that's an interesting aspect, that they are not all working on the same blockchain. So whenever we had the Win mainnet questions, that was always so hard to describe to people, especially in the early days. So the interesting thing, though, is that we tapped into, even at Disney, we tapped into Bitcoin, but it was specifically because, okay, we consider it a spectrum. You have, in this hybrid blockchain platform, you have a business node that is, for all intents and purposes, a private blockchain. You can decentralize the data, you can have other nodes, you can share your business data explicitly as you wish, but by default, all of that business data is protected. And that was one of our main goals for enterprise when we first created the architecture, was protection of business data, protection of business value, protection of business process. And that all of that is controlled on that level one. And the reason we do that is standard DevOps applies, all the best practices, all of your developers, all your engineers can know your data. It's all what they already understand with some extra little things built in and to help standardize everything. So the beauty is that private blockchain, which you can argue philosophically whether a private blockchain is of any value. I do think that they are. However, they are not of the fully realized value that a public blockchain is, where you have full, or at least philosophically full, decentralization as much as possible. Ideally, the economy is set to push further decentralization, but the beauty is we consider it a spectrum, that from private to full public, from centralized to fully decentralized, from extremely fast and scalable to extremely slow and not scalable, and that we are able architecturally to tap into that structure for a business and provide radical scalability. If you watch the 24-hour 250 million transactions fly through in production on the real network with the 700-800 nodes that we're running, and with all of Bitcoin involved, all of Ethereum Classic, Binance, we know it's scalable. And then you have the radical proof that Bitcoin itself, but then also added Ethereum and the diversity of the other algorithms for consensus. And the fact that now I could have telco transactions or fintech transactions that I could tie any one of them to hundreds of millions or even potentially billions of dollars of energy that has secured a block on Bitcoin and Ethereum combined, right? So those are the types of things that when we talk about security interchain, and I think that is the most appropriate, earliest adoption, the thing that is most useful now, immediately. The third dimension of that, I'm sorry this is going longer than I wanted, but hopefully this is good info, is utility interchain. And this is a big piece of what we came out with, especially in 2017. Things looked like adoption were going to actually happen. And with bear market and with other types of unfortunate events, the crypto world has been in a big winter. But the point is that when Bitcoin was governments, corporations, everyone was trying to kill it. The press was trying to say it was dead. Everything else forever since the beginning. And the interesting thing, in my opinion, I always called it a hydra, that all of the other cryptos came out of the woodworks. And the beauty is this technology can't be stopped. I mean, you potentially could stop one of the chains. You could potentially stop, a team. You can do various things like that, but you can't stop the idea and the tech. And with that, the fact that there's all of this diversity, and apologies to the maximalists, it isn't all about one chain. That's probably the stupidest historical thing you could ever think to happen. It would be like saying, at the beginning of the .com boom, that we should have all focused everything on pets.com. Pets.com is it. That's the one we should have gone with. And gosh, where would we be if they would have done that, right? And the difference there is that there are weird drivers in crypto, because of the forces, both central bank government, big bank, other fintech VCs that have that have to see it as a real threat. So because of that, there's a lot of unfortunate failings right now, that we're hoping that as many of the what people term altcoins, but what we term to be utility chains survive. That even if they are direct competitors to Bitcoin, even if they are intended to be a better cash or a better payment or a better gold or a better whatever, of course, barring all of the obvious scams out there, there are a lot of legitimate good projects. And this is Dragonchain's vision of interop between those projects. And it is very focused on development best practices. You're not going to see me talking about the latest cryptographic algorithm in relation to this. Obviously, those things can be applied. And we want, in fact, to interchain with projects that do focus in those areas for diversity of processing, diversity of security, diversity of utility. And yet, when we talk about utility interchain, we're saying the ability for a business to say, that new project that has some better form or some better feature or a better ecosystem of decentralized encrypted storage, because there's I'm not even going to get all of them, of course, but there's Siacoin, there's Storage, there's Filecoin, and I don't know what else. But I guarantee there are more. That one of them might pop up with a feature that one of my customers wants to use. They can easily integrate it with lower risk than if they built their entire system directly to it, because they can write glue code in smart contracts. They can control their data and be very specific about which parts they put onto the other system. And that's just one of many. There are, you have decentralized compute, you have reputation systems, you have things like project, like Augur project, where there's so many other utilities possible with blockchain that we think there's a huge future here. But there's no way really to know how long it'll take before people get it and before those projects are in place. And the biggest part is businesses understanding and wanting to use it. The last is traditional legacy systems. And we have some architectural benefit to citing this. Some people wouldn't think of this as interop or interchain, but because it's not directly between two chains or multiple chains, this is more, I want to connect my accounting system to my employee system, or my employee HR system to my account provisioning system, and or my accounting system to my AML system. And one way or another, what this would allow you to do is standardize some of the processing and logging or persistence of state, so that if something goes wrong, you can actually go and see no matter what those other systems are logging, you can see what the state was that passed between them. You can also automate, which isn't the most important part, because you can automate without blockchain, obviously. But that with Dragonchain, you can automate like you would normally with a traditional system, with your own existing scripting code or whatever language you want to use. But, because nearly every system you use in an enterprise today has an API, has SDKs. So what we're talking about is the ability to use that existing infrastructure and ecosystem to plug stuff together, to glue stuff together in a way that you're controlling with smart contracts. And what's important about that is that you have the audit then, that that you're following whatever process you put in place. You can see you can have a dashboard with check marks and stuff. So anyway, that's Interchain. It's live. you have basically a bunch of stuff to look at there, and by all means ask any questions. Next up, we have the DIN updates. So interesting thing. So we rolled it out, and we kind of hinted to it, I think, last week. But either way, that we rolled out the wider video capabilities, and with this, you can now post YouTube, and the interface is really simple. You just need to share a YouTube video and plug it in. We only allow one video post per post, and you can't reply with a video. But the intent is to provide a better way to have conversation, especially with all the reputation tools and fake news, anti-censorship stuff that DIN is all about. So we support YouTube and direct streaming. There's nothing radically special about it, except that it's embedded streaming. We support Vimeo, which was actually, I was surprised because I didn't expect they were going to build that in immediately. I wanted it, obviously, but that way we can support your using multiple platforms, because censorship and demonetization and everything else that happens, there really does need to be more diversity and competition. We also support SoundCloud, which is nice. So we can start doing blogs and other music stuff. I believe that there's a music layer coming that will have artists and such in it. And we're going to have some how do I say, some premium features for creators, for content creators, and what some people would call influencers. So part of that, and I showed some of this. Showed some of this last week. I lost my screen there. Where you can turn off the ability to let someone post. Like, say, here's the LCP layer. People can reply, people can vote. We don't allow video. This would open up, obviously, letting people post images or videos. And we also have a torrent feature in there, but we don't have the workflow so necessarily optimized yet for it. That'll probably be a premium feature. If you have a use for it, let us know. But it basically would allow people in your community to help you stream a fully decentralized video, so you wouldn't have to have it on YouTube or Vimeo. And obviously there are some difficulties with that. How do you get people to do that? And if we have interest, we have a plan. It's not prioritized yet to basically reward with mining the people that are actually hosting or seeding that content for streaming. So tell us if you're interested in that. We think that it would be pretty valuable. And the other thing that we did add is the ability to post up to 4 images in a single post. So that is going to help for some content rather than, because it's actually persisted. I mean, if you do an image tag in markup or markdown inside of your post or inside of your content, it's only persisting the link, the URL. If you actually want the image persisted, you would need to actually click on the image post stuff. So anyway, next up, AMA. I'll try to make the screen a bit bigger here so that we can go down. All right, so we're going to do these in order. I don't know how far I'll get through them. It's only 24 minutes. I'll at least go till the top of the hour. Everyone kept it really nice. 1 question per reply. This is great. You can see that in the AMA DIN, I believe it is locked down to not have posts like these. And I'll try to, by the way, Chiz, I'll try to get to this one. Hopefully someone reminds me in the chat. And and we'll see. But one way or another, let's go straight into the questions. And gosh, it had me at the top. Okay, so Bit by the Coin asks, hopefully, yeah, you can see that. How does Dragonchain handle legal issues in a decentralized environment with regard to legal responsibility, jurisdiction over disputes, liability for security, and integrity between networks? Okay, so first glance, I have to ask if it's if this is how do we handle our legal issues, or how do we see legal issues being handled? I think it's the second one, but we've gotten a lot of experience based upon the first. So generally, we see this as a, although not entirely proven, that you imagine going into a courtroom, and I've served as an expert witness before, so I know a tiny bit of how all of this works, and it's really interesting. But you imagine if you go into a courtroom without just, okay, here's the information that you, who by the way we hate, is asking, and just trusting that. I myself have, in my very limited exposure, seen people do very nefarious things and lie and cheat and get in trouble for it. It's really interesting, and it's really amazing to me that the court system works as loosely as it does. It's all based upon just people saying something, and whether a judge believes them. It's kind of crazy. But what we see is that any transaction on chain should be radically more valuable than that. I mean, we do see, and the reason for our architecture, the reason that there is a level 4 and a level 5 in our architecture, level 4 being notary, decentralized notary, an identified notary, versus level 5, which is a decentralized, totally anonymous, totally math-based approach, that if I were to offer up proof to a business partner, to a business associate, or to someone suing me, or to someone auditing me or regulating me, the fact that I can not only point to an identified entity, saying that without access to the information, that I can show, here's the information, and it's moved all the way up to this entity that said, oh yes, I see that you that you posted this, or this action happened, this user did this, something happened in a transaction, and a notary basically signed a hash that said, we don't know what it is, but we're signing this right now. And all of that being secured on Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic, you can prove it all the way. And we really wanted both sides of that issue. We really wanted to be able to handle the human trust side of the question, as well as the measurable proof and what you get with Bitcoin and other public blockchains, that I can actually measure how much energy, how many dollars were spent since that point in time, and were there any forks at or around that time, or after that time, that potentially could have changed it, especially simultaneous forks, or especially forks across all of the chains that you're talking about. Sorry, that's a long answer. It's a good question. Okay, Scott 510. With Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic, Neo, and Binance providing current interchain capabilities, Neo is dormant because they, we couldn't keep their software up to date, and we reached out, haven't heard much back. We'd love to have them host it so that it's always up to date, or give us access to one of theirs. Either way, why would you need additional interchange from a hashed security standpoint? Seems to me diminishing returns unless specific client had plans otherwise. I mean, if a client has plans, absolutely makes sense. For example, decentralized on-chain storage, which would be more of a utility interchain. I mean, I wouldn't be against us having a stores or Siacoin level 5 but it might be more expensive than needed. It might pollute their network more than intended, and who knows? It's case by case. Thoughts on building decentralized storage solution with Eternal or factor integration? Definitely, we've had thoughts of that in the past. In fact, there's some reason to even consider doing something directly for Eternal so that it is more decentralized than it is. I mean, it's right now. It started as a proof of concept, a prototype, but it is now a product, and we're trying to expand features. But why would you need? I'm going to answer this question. Why would you need additional interchains from a hashed security standpoint? The reason there is diversity. What if a major world war happened and there was actual, real nation-state interference? If the U.S. goes to war with China, what does that mean for Bitcoin mining? I mean, that's a crazy question I've not really seen people talking about, but that's important, and enough of that mining power is in China that it could be a real threat to that network. Who knows? That might mean that, let's say that the Intel, nation-state Intel, had some level of influence or role in creating Bitcoin, in the algorithm or in the actual build. Who knows? Would they hesitate to use that network against the Chinese? So what you want is diversity, and in a simpler and less tinfoil hat area, you can look at what I mentioned earlier, the Ethereum Classic 51% attack. That could happen with Bitcoin. It very unlikely, but maybe there could be a bug in there. There could be a 0 day. There could be something that someone's sitting on that we don't know about the crypto algorithms themselves. So from a security standpoint, you want diversity. I've said this before to our devs. I would prefer to have 200 interchain nodes running than the 4 that we have. The issue for us comes with the managing of all of that infrastructure. I mean, it's really expensive to manage the Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic and Binance. When we're moving forward with Divi, the model is much better that they are going to be running their Divi node because they'll keep it patched. We won't have anything to worry about, and they're leaving it open to us, and they're going to be doing other things with Dragonchain, so for utility, which will be really interesting. So that's coming. Anyway, good question, Scott 510. Scott 5 Quinn 510 also follow up. How hard would this be, and is anyone doing it? Interchain private or public Ethereum with Siacoin, stores, Filecoin, etc. So Adapt can pull assets from decentralized storage. Totally doable. I'm trying to think. It would require you'd have to design how you wanted the messaging to work, the communication flow between those chains. But I could have a DApp on public Ethereum that can basically issue a transaction, or as the result of the output of another transaction, we can have a listener on Dragonchain that then can put something on one of the storage networks, or vice versa. The existence of, and I don't know enough about Siacoin storage, Filecoin, especially anything that could be approaching a standard, but if you had some way to flag something that could then be watched and then pushed to a contract on Ethereum public or private Ethereum, totally doable. I don't even think it would take that much effort. It wouldn't be that expensive. So I would like to see it. Do it, Scott. Let's see here. Alxons. Is there any idea of creating pools for the L1s that would be economical for small developers? I asked a question about it, and yes, okay. So you answered that allowing several developers to work on the same project, each contributing their own time. we've actually really had that. We notion to build a sandbox, in the very least, where people could just play with a node and not put any sensitive data or worry about what they're using it for. To say if they're working on the same project and each they already can do this. There is the notion of an enterprise, a multi-user account. I don't know how much is built into it yet. I do know that you can apply multiple wallets to a single chain. So you could, when you claim those other wallets, you could claim them on that account and put time in. There's not an easy way to split it up short through time leasing and stuff like that. And if it's a real customer inquiry, we'll build that in. We've been waiting to build that. It's just not prioritized. We have most of the plans for it in design. So let's see here. Vang's even comments. Allow the devs to create organizations, yes, and each of them contribute with X amount of time. Exactly. So that is what I think. Very good stuff. Let's put these guys up. Let's see here. Oxons, last week the news came in that Reddit is investigating to implement a point system in the blockchain. Same thing we have in DIN. What do you think about it? I would love to see it. I would have loved to have seen it back when they originally wanted to do that, which was what, like 2011 or 12. They actually decided it was too hard. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because they were going to issue, I believe, their own cryptocurrency and reward users based upon karma. I have no idea what they were doing or how they were considering doing it. You know, maybe they were at that time only considering Bitcoin. I don't know. It was early, right? But it would be very doable for them. But I still would put money on that they will probably fail at it. Mostly because it would completely change. It would be a totally different. It wouldn't be Reddit anymore, right? I mean, Reddit, it's all about, oh, I'm going to vote up every single post in this subreddit, and I'm going to go over to the other subreddits and troll them. And to think that they would, I mean, maybe they would. Maybe they would codify what they try to do with their admins, but a lot of that is not necessarily legit. A lot of what they do at the admin level is censorship. So maybe that's what you'll have. I mean, maybe they'll sell to China. Wait, China owns most of Reddit, right? I believe so. China owns a ton of Reddit. So correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm pretty sure that's right. It makes sense. Okay, next thing. Let's see here. This week, we have a large increase. This is from Alxons in L4 nodes, which in turn is lowering the applied time. Is this due to the imminent presence of clients? The L4 nodes aren't client nodes, of course. There are a couple. But most of the increase in L4 nodes, although I've not been tracking it myself, should be likely attributed to the opening up of the process to get an L4 node. That is, all of the Dragonchain winners who had the ability to create an L3 node, we gave them the ability to either run their on-prem L3 node, pay for an L3 node, or do an on-prem L4 node. And so a bunch of them did that. There's also anyone who joins Fellowship was added to that. And then there are two levels, time and balance, that can also get you the ability to create an L4 node, and you have to apply for it. And I've not unfortunately been able to keep up with the numbers, so as to how many people are in process. But we have one of our best on that, and it looks like he's getting through a lot of them. So and I saw the conversation down below. Yes, Dragonchain, but it's also Fellowship. It's also people that had, I can't remember what the numbers were, but a large amount of time and or a very large balance that we've said, okay, you guys can run L4s. They have to identify themselves, so on. And yes, it is democratization of the network. That was the point. We want as many L4s as possible that aren't just Dragonchain related or controlled. So, which, by the way, the numbers on, and let's look that up. Numbers on nodes. Let's see here. Look at global time. numbers of nodes that if we go through it, I mean, we have still, like, 366 L4s, or L2s, very nice. Let's see here. Bit by the Coin asks, do you handle interop differently between a non-blockchain platform, a blockchain platform, a compatible blockchain platform, or a non-compatible blockchain platform? I'm not sure what you mean by compatible or non-compatible, but interop, in my opinion, is interop. I mean, there are obviously things you have to think of for blockchain, and things that you maybe don't have to, but want to think of because it's on blockchain, or because there's an interop involving Dragonchain. But all of them are software. All of them are software across the board. So if you're hitting an API, if you're writing something in Dragonchain, you're hitting an API for your QuickBooks system, or your whatever system you are touching that has an API, it's software. You have to know how the state is handled, and you have to know how the messaging is handled, and you have to know, or you can know, what you want to do with how do I say this? What you want to do with indexing. So you can treat Dragonchain like a database, and it's not even a slow database. It's a fast database because you can index anything in your payloads, and yet it's a hybrid chain. So you have to consider, okay, I've found all these results. These are really they came back really fast, but a few of these results haven't made it all the way to a level 5. Do I trust that or not? Depends on the data. Everything else is, though, just connecting software to software. So it's what you already know. If you've ever written something in Linux or on in Docker, inside of Docker, that you can do anything you would do in any of those cases, which is the reason that we do say that you can use your existing dev resources, the people that already know your data, they already know your customer, they already know your business. You don't have to hire someone who knows Solidity, and we're not saying you wouldn't. There might be something you want or need to do on Ethereum, but you don't have to. And that also means you're going to be you're going to have a lot higher likelihood that you'll succeed, that you'll be able to deliver a good product fast. Scott 510, really good question. When dark mode? I don't know. I know everything we have is in. I believe everything we have is themed, so it's potentially not that hard. It's just the team's been. This is for Den. The team's been. I assume this is for Den. The team is busy on so many things that it's interesting. So okay, some things here. Okay, I'm not going to point to the actual question, but I did find some stuff on Twitter of people that were too lazy to come here and post it. So anyway, my AMA question: can we get an update on where things stands as it relates to Benefactor Factory? I remember Benefactor Factory, but I was never involved with them. I do not believe that I ever spoke with them. That was a former, and you probably remember who, I'm not going to say, that handled that. And I actually no idea, have no idea. Is that company still around? We're still around, and they were, as I recall, going to use our system, right? So I cannot be held responsible if a company stops, if they fail, if they succeed and walk away, if they decide to pay. A lot of these companies obviously in 2018 had to pivot, right? A lot of them are not doing what they originally set out to do. Why is that? It's like, you can't control the world. I'm not omnipotent, right? And I'm not omniscient, so I don't even know. I can't even remember what Benefactor Factory did. So Benefactor Factory. Either way, that's that. Look lateral. I'm starting to remember. Maybe I do remember what Benefactor Factory. No, I don't. I can't remember. Look lateral. Same thing. That they've had to pivot. And this is a pretty big sore point with a lot of people. but these are guys that could have walked away already. I maintain still that they really have tried to do right by everybody. And I can see his hair graying and loss of weight and other things. But I know they're still going out trying to get customers. They have some customers in line. They have some things for funding. They have some development that was accomplished. They did fail at some things, and that's life, right? But we're still hopeful, because the use case, I do still think, is a radically valuable use case. And some of the sub use cases, or some of the ways that they are monetizing some of those use cases are really interesting now, to do with insurance and banks. So anyway, that's how it is. Life ID. Life ID is a really interesting thing. I don't know how much I can say about it. Really good guys, really smart guys, but we had them do some of the early KYC stuff, and it fell over. We had to pick it up. There were interactions that weren't the best. We're still on speaking terms and everything. I still like them all. I still respect them all, but there was definitely a falling out, and they went along, and I don't know precisely. I've heard some things where they're at. We hope the best for them, but I think they're using an alternate platform that still isn't live after how many years? It's probably that's 2017, 2018, 2019, and we're at least a quarter of the way through 2020. We're live, and we had to take our philosophy on identity, and we built it out in 2018. It was operational, server side, non-consumer, decentralized identity in 2018. So we already have that. In fact, there will be very interesting news related to what is Dragon Factor coming up. Hopefully it'll be next week. It kind of depends on timing, and legal, but there are customers coming for it, and there are contracts for it, and it's really, really cool stuff. BioCrypt, I've actually been in touch with them very recently. Sounds like there was a falling out with one of the guys who maybe hates us now or something. I've tried to figure out. They said some stuff that wasn't true in their chat. And I think, though, that was all just weird emotional stuff in the middle of the bear market. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The guys that I've been talking to that are on the project are obviously very, very smart guys, and have they're still doing it. They haven't walked away. So you have to respect them, and we're hopeful that that goes forward. Metropolis, they, along with every other project in the world, got letters from the SEC. It kind of killed them. They were never. It was never a company, so there was no issue. But they did walk away, right? The tech was there. The tech was pre-existing, so someone could pick it back up. They could pick it back up, but they had to go. They have families. They had to go and do what they need to do to live. Igon, I can't remember where they were based. I think Northern Europe. That was a good project. I only knew a little bit about it, but we had to pull back for legal reasons from facilitating their token creation. So that, again, is another sore point, but at least it was, I think it was well managed. I hate the fact that it happened, and it was the stupidest thing in the world, but what do you do? The friggin' evil people run the world anyway. And not them, they're good guys. Espresso. I've actually heard recently about one of their people. I don't remember everything about Espresso. I think it was a way to launch new chains, new nodes from various blockchains, and I know that they did integrate Dragonchain. It was on their site and everything else. And I think they, in my opinion anyway, they predated what Amazon is now doing and what Microsoft is now doing, and it's hard to compete against them. But I don't know where Espresso is anymore. but I know that we have someone that was reaching out to them for some other things. So I think really good group. They had some quality stuff come out. Circle. These people are amazing. They focus mostly on IoT, and they were wanting to integrate their IoT with blockchain. And I don't know, what they've proceeded with. We had some stuff to them back in the day, and I know the stuff that they do. They have lots of hardware. Controlling your lights in your office space, and controlling anything that can be controlled with IoT. And we would still be interested in helping them integrate and handle tracking and ecosystem with it. And they're definitely a really good group. I imagine I've not looked. I imagine that they have pivoted away from crypto entirely because of the poison that is out there, like this very post, by the way. CoinMe, they're a very conservative group. We don't have what you would consider a partnership with them. I don't know why they're on here. We invested in CoinMe for a variety of strategic reasons, but we do hope to integrate and work with them on identity to help them with their, they have to do some level of identity when they give Bitcoin, and when someone goes up to a Coinstar and drops a great big piggy bank worth of coins in and wants Bitcoin out of it, or some other crypto, we're hoping, integrate in that way. It kind of depends. It's not like the highest priority for us, but we are ready to do whatever they might want to do, and we're talking to them as needed. Metro Edge, they were owned by a larger accounting firm out of Chicago, and we think they just didn't see the numbers that they wanted in what they were selling. They were selling a container-based approach to data centers, which you've seen before. Lots of groups doing that, but they had some really good extra tech, and we were coming in alongside. But I think some of the blockchain part of it was too abstract for some of their customers. We learned a lot. I think they learned a lot. A few of their people have left and gone elsewhere. I'm not sure if the company's still there. FlowPlay, we still have a partnership with them. There are some things I can't say about their business that has kept them from doing anything recently. But we have high hopes that they could integrate some good tokenization in. Along with that, you don't mention Summer Play Games. They're just building their product, and we're here when they need us, and occasionally they'll reach out about features or even bugs, and obviously about advice. What can we do to handle a certain situation, either in an economy or in very technical pieces. In M2030, kind of glad we aren't doing that one anymore. I never quite understood it. I was like, okay, I get the group. I get that it's Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded, and that it's seeking solutions against malaria, which is awesome. Of course, I'm not a fan of malaria, right? I wonder if they use hydroxychloroquine. Sorry, that's a funny thing, right? But either way, our person in charge of that project never closed any of the sub deals. That was the point, that we were supposed to get this broader umbrella under which we can make deals that fit into that some of the customers could then have grants to build out some of this stuff, and that everything would be traceable and trackable. The fact that when you have an incentive for people and you're saying, I'm going to buy this particular drink because a nickel of that goes to this charity, and we could trace that. None of the touted and pushed sub deals, the actual projects, came out of it. I wonder why. I mean, you could go and ask everybody. Everybody on here probably knows who was in charge of that. You could look back through history, you could Google it, but nothing ever came of it. Block, I don't know why that's even on this list. They are still very much a close partner. Two of the founders of Block are on our advisory board. They're amazing guys. You know, Jeff Garzik, who is, in my opinion, a technology demigod, because he worked both at Red Hat on kernel dev with Linus Torvalds, and also in the very, very early Bitcoin. I think he was number 3 Bitcoin dev after Satoshi and Andreessen himself. And so I have no idea whether he's ever interacted in any way other than on the chat boards with Satoshi. But anybody who's worked for those two giants in the world, probably the most important two people in the past 100 years, at least in technology, but potentially and likely across the board, political, everything. And so they're still on board. We're still working with them. We had to cancel the call yesterday because they were busy. So we have a call every week. Anyway, the Interchain Everything contest, nice spelling, by the way. We are still, and like I say, we're focusing on them, and we've changed our model because we realized how much it costs to run some of these networks. In particular, you know, like some of the ones that are handled, they're shielded heavily. People hold them. There are a lot of people with bags, but they don't do much, and they tend to be controlled by either nation states or banks, and their code is not really real, right? So there's some of those cases. Now a lot of the ones that won, I wouldn't say that about, but we do know that it costs a lot to run just in AWS to run that node for the connection and the crypto to keep it running. So it's coming, but we're focusing, like we said before, on that other model. Hurify Digital Markets. We were working with them all the way up until late 2019. We have some stuff that we were working on with them for some pretty big companies. I mean, they're really great guys. We love them. So I just don't know. I think they got busy with something and or pivoted. I do not know. So anyway, I wanted to spend some time on those because they were particularly annoying to me. The other one was I think mentioned about the CoinMe, which the amount of we took an investment in CoinMe either way. So I'll make sure I brought that up. Okay, I'm going to go through these real quick. We're almost I have about 2 minutes left, right? Do the different consensus mechanisms interfere with interoperability within the Dragonchain platform? Not at all. They're completely abstracted at the level 5. So you have many different consensus mechanisms at that level, and DragonNet and Dragonchain and your own Dragonchain node have no effect. Doesn't matter. Oxons, after the big test in February, a change in marketing was announced. Do you think the change has been good? Do you see the change? Good and bad. Everything's good and bad. Everything done for various reasons. I generally think it's been good overall. It's forced us to rethink some things, and some things are better, and we're still improving other things. And definitely, I think you've probably seen a lot of the announcements. We're actually hitting Blockfolio. We're actually posting stuff to LinkedIn now. We're actually posting stuff to multiple product accounts on Twitter. So we're going to keep expanding that and try to even kind of shake this show up a little bit, try to get it. Right now, we're simulcasting to Periscope, so hopefully we'll get more there. We're waiting on approval to do live on LinkedIn, and whether or not we get live on LinkedIn, we're going to do, how do I say this? We're going to at least be posting recorded video to LinkedIn a lot more, because we tend to get pretty good engagement there with video. Oxons, I think it'd be interesting to collaborate with some university and for the youngest ones to see the importance and quality of the project. Do you have something in mind? I was talking to some people at UW, and there were a couple of other groups on with colleges, universities on with it. I think UC and one of the Ivy Leagues too, where they were interested in blockchain education course, and if I was interested in, you know, either speaking or something. And the problem with it was that they had an existing curriculum that was totally pigeonholed, totally myopic about one blockchain, and you can probably guess which one, but it was not something I would want to be involved in unless we can open it up and say, look, you and not just about Dragonchain, but the fact that you have to talk about all these other utility coins, you have to talk about all of the other currencies, you have to talk about the actual core capabilities of the technology itself, not about, you know, because this wasn't a coder class, this was for business people. So if it's a coder class, obviously, yeah, you can hit Bitcoin, and it's where, you know, the most activity is, right? So anyway, so yes, we have, oh, in fact, I should mention, we're starting a project to do workshops, and they're particularly focused on enterprise and enterprise sales, but these workshops might be what you have in mind. We aren't sure yet what the how we're going to release them. We know we're at least going to release snippets of them and make it so that people can come in, but we'll see. More on that later. Number of alliances, just to name a few. How does Dragonchain deal with so many entities providing standardization? We think that we should pay attention to it, be judicious, think about it, watch it. We're not going to jump in to any one standard. Most of the standards bodies, I've been a dev for a long time. Most of the standards bodies are trash. Most of them are basically manned by people from the great big entities, IBM, BEA, anyone that has a notion that they can push something into the standard that will be hard for others to do, or that will make it, it's a big game to make it so that competitors have a really hard time competing, and also to have the, early action is okay, but those things happen so often, and you can look at the history. You look at XML. You had tons of people that were on those for resume building reasons. You had tons of companies on them in order to position against their competitors, and ignoring what the technology is actually used for. You look at SOAP. Good gosh, look at SOAP, the most horrible thing ever. And yet the real thing is there. REST was already there, and REST is still there, and REST will be there. And the same reason that we built Dragonchain the way we did. So anyway, I probably have to sign off. It's 1 hour, 2 minutes. So see you guys next week. Make sure you subscribe and like the video and all that crap that you're supposed to do on YouTube. Thanks, bye.